Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 867, Gary's here, and we've got lots to talk about this week. We've got new builds of Windows 11 as we get closer to 22H2. Gary's got a new toy drone, or a new drone, I say. It's not really a toy, we'll be talking about that as well. We've got some EV chat. I've got some great video about the Fairlight. We've got some software news, all sorts. So let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, and we're back. No Richard tonight because he is back, but I think he's somewhere in customs. So for some reason, he didn't want to push it with US customs using his phone going through immigration.
No, I wouldn't advise that. They're very
security.
Anti you using your phone in line now. I have seen people dragged off, literally kicking and screaming with their phones being So I wouldn't risk it. And of course, Richard's going to be very disappointed because they tried to launch again and they still failed to launch. So
Yeah, I think I was following it a few times. I think they were trying to launch the rocket. Well, it was about 3 or 4 times they tried, wasn't it?
Yeah, they did. So yes, a big shame, but that's the way it is.
Gives them another excuse to go back.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have another press launch.
Yeah,
they decide to relaunch in a few weeks.
Yeah. So whether we'll get to go over that, I'm not quite sure. But we have got lots of things to talk about. We've got new builds of Windows 11 as we get closer to 22H2. We have an interesting film I found about the history of Fairlight CMI, which we'll talk about a bit later. I know you've got a new toy and an event that you're coming up with as well. So plenty to talk about. Did I mention my Surface Dial last week?
You said something about it, but I'm not quite sure. I honestly can't remember because so much has happened since the last week.
Yeah. Actually, I can show the video of because I did catch it on Twitter. So I'll share my screen. So I always trying to find useful things to do with the Surface Dial, and I've been using it for video editing, but I thought even better is to use it with some music editor. I don't think you can see my screen now, but this is the video I recorded and I posted it. So this is the Surface Dial working with Cubase, using it on the timeline, so you can use it as an audio scrub.
Cool.
So you can use it to go forwards, go back.
That's a really good use of a dial.
Yeah, and the great thing about doing it in Cubase is, and you can't get that from the video, is that it has the audio. So it actually plays the audio forward or reverse, just like if you were doing it through an analog tape machine. So if you were, if you're a bit old school and you used to do your music recording on an analog tape machine, if you wound the tape backwards while the playheads were still connected, you got the reverse sound. So using the dial, it scrubs forwards and scrubs back, and you can get the sound. So it's actually quite good for, especially if you zoom in on the timeline, getting to the exact point where you want it to be in the timeline. So it's quite a useful little trick that. So that's the Surface Dial. I don't think you can get these anymore. And there are lots of other dedicated things you can buy at Korg doing Nano Control Studio, and there's a host of things you can use to, with jog dials on there that work with music applications like Logic and Cubase. But I had this and it wasn't doing very much, so I thought that actually it wasn't particularly difficult to do. I think it's just a question of finding the keys. In fact, there wasn't a very good key combination I could find. So in Cubase, you can create your own key mappings. So I created a key mapping to do the forward and jog back, and then I used the dial to emulate those keys. So and it works great. So you can do a bit of scratching with it, really, because it's got if you go over a sample, you go. So there you go.
Yeah, I'd love one of those back in my DJ days. Yeah, to do my hospital radio stuff. So. Not have the patients hopping in their beds. That would
that was more of in your smashy and nicey days.
Yeah.
But little fun thing. So sometimes, because I'm not using it, I thought I'd try and use it, because I was thinking of getting one of those control surfaces, but I seem to have so many different gadgets around that I thought there's got to be some use to put some of these things. So the other thing I was thinking is whether you could use it like a phone and have a a virtual thing on a phone application, but that's the next thing I'm going to try. I don't know whether you could do it with the HoloLens, but yeah, this actually works. So that actually works. So that's quite good. So, and I've now just about finished my audio and my Uno drum editor. In fact, I can show this one as well. So, I mentioned the other week about I'd done a little application for controlling the drum machine. I guess you can share this. Yes, I can. So this is the application. So it calculates these folders for you. You kind of give it the master folder, and when you download these sounds from their website, it uses the iCame product manager application, so it automatically puts them in these folders. So you only have to point it to where you put the initial one, and then I made the program scan through for the file names and match it up as best as it can. And then you choose which, so if you want 80s Roland, you hit that 80s Roland button, and then if you've got it connected via USB, you click install and that installs it. Or if you're going for some old organ drum sounds, you can go that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's just about ready. I've got a page on it now, so if anybody wants to test it, they can let me know, but I'll probably do a blog post on it at some point. I'm sure there's it's the first time someone tries it other than me, it'll have some kind of exception. but it's hard to test. I've only tried it on a couple of machines, but it seems to work. .NET Framework 4.5 I think you need, but anyway, so I've got that ready to go as well. Right, so what else do we have to talk about this? Oh yes, so let's start off with some builds. We did get a new build of Windows 11 last week. This is 25193, which is for insiders on the dev channel. And again, they're not a lot of changes coming through this build. So the latest one is 25193, and it has Game Pass details in there. So like Windows, I think on 22H2 anyway, where you can see your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 subscription, you can also go in there and look at your Game Pass now. Now I haven't got Game Pass, but also I noticed I didn't have the option to do it. So it looks like that is one of those features that's rolling out slowly.
Yes.
Which is, but yeah, this was a good idea. It gets to see all your subscriptions in one places. Interestingly, they disabled the local file share to OneDrive that they introduced a couple of weeks ago. So this is where you could right click on a file, a local file, share via OneDrive, and it would share. You could send a link out, but they've removed that. So I'm guessing they've had a few bugs on that, and so they've removed that. And the rest of the changes were fairly minor. They've fixed, but they have fixed the issue with the .NET Framework 3.5. So I've seen a few jokes about that now, about people saying sort of it's the year 2043 and the latest version of Windows is being installed, and you still need a .NET Framework 3.5 to get your application to work.
Almost certainly, there's so many apps which are not being updated, which are not
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, so it's just one of those things. I think, especially 3.5. I think it was the one that it just works, and then it was the one that you could target because you can pretty much sure it's there, and anyway, so that was the changes, and there's a couple of fixes, and there's still the usual issues with known issues, anti-cheat software and things like that. So, and although they said that a new one is bug checks when moving a mouse in certain games. So I think that is definitely a bit of a bug. But I think if you're using these insider builds, it's probably not best recommended for your gaming rigs. I certainly don't touch it on my work machine or my music recording machine, because those are ones that I just need to be able to switch on and work. And I'm quite happy tinkering with my Surface Go or virtual machines or whatever. But I'm not too keen on doing it on my work machines. But release preview fine, but not dev. And also, I think we're getting closer to the release of 22H2. The current thinking, I think, is probably 2 weeks, something like that now. Third week is September, something like that. 20th of September, around them. It seems to be a date that I've seen mentioned a couple of times. So we did get a new build for the dev channel. For the beta channel. Again, we're on these weird split builds, so 22621.590 and 22622.590, depending on which one you get, which one has features and which one doesn't. But like I said a couple weeks ago, if you're on the lower one, you can go into Windows Update and change to the higher one if you want as well. But they were just bug fixes in that though. There's quite a lot of bug fixes, but there were just bug fixes in there. There's only just a couple of known issues. Although I've seen this one about the audio stopped working for some insiders. I've got this build installed on my Surface laptop, and it's worked fine. But I have seen a few other insiders saying about this audio, so I'm guessing it's certain audio manufacturer drivers that are causing the issue. The Surface one's fine, but other ones might not be. So I guess they want to fix that before they introduce anything like that into production. So that was the roundup of the builds. So yeah, fairly quiet on the build front recently, but we are getting close to 22H2, like I said, a couple of weeks time now, and I think we'll get that ready. My article about it is ready to go. And just see whether Microsoft changing anything. I don't think the File Explorer tabs are going to be in this build or this release in September. That is going to come at some point in the future. Although I think it's in there. I think they're going to have it switched off, and then they'll switch it on at some point in the future.
That's my thought anyway.
Yeah. Now switching gears completely. We talked about music technology, and we've I think I mentioned the Fairlight emulator that I talked about a couple of weeks ago that I'm absolutely loving. But I came across this new video. So for anybody that's interested in the history of the Fairlight, and I know it's a musical instrument, we all time do talk about instrument, but this is not just this is a computer. This is the first available digital sampler and sequencer used by Peter Gabriel, Kate Bush, Running Up the Hill, all that kind of stuff, Pet Shop Boys, Thomas Dolby, all sorts. Massive influence, but it was an Australian company, and this Australian video has been made about the history of it, and there's some really nice interviews with the key players on it, and showing you about some of the technicalities behind it as well. And I think they used Motorola processors, and they made their own operating system. So it goes through all that, and it's only a 20-minute video, but it's well worth watching. It's got some interviews with the sort of the main creators of it, and some of the interesting stuff that went on at that time. So definitely worth checking out if you're interested in anything to do with music technology, or any technology really, because we like our retro stuff on here. And this is proper retro computing with touch screens and not even touch screens, was it light pens? Light
pens, yeah, those are the days.
Yeah, and amazing details that they went into making the machine. I'll leave listeners and viewers to check that out for themselves. But things like the keyboard, not the music keyboard, the actual PC keyboard, they actually made their own keys. So you can see why this thing cost, was it £20,000 at the time back in the early 80s? The price of a house, that's what they used to say, didn't they? Because they made everything themselves. They had the little magnetic switches on the keys, all made themselves. All the boards were fabricated by themselves. They did everything themselves, and they sourced the tubes for the monitors and everything. So in this day where you can buy, microprocessor systems from, you can get your like the Arduino type chips, and you can get these things pre-built, and then you just have a bit of customization. They did everything, so there was no importing of a cheap keyboard, from China like you would do now if you were making an all-in-one system. You would just use a USB keyboard, and you just go and buy 100,000 USB keyboards and start shipping them with your system. They made everything themselves, so it's well worth watching if you're interested in retro technology, music technology, and everything like that. But light pens, I do remember working on one of them when I was at college, late 80s. I did work experience for Hewlett Packard, who in those days did business systems, and it was actually based outside of Preston, where they had a unit where they just go out and repair stuff. And you can't believe, that this nowadays it just doesn't, it's something that's hard to imagine. But yeah, in those days they would go out. So if some manufacturing business was using these HP systems, and they'd take boards and they'd swap boards, and they'd take the boards, solder them and fix them and send them back. But I remember seeing light pens used on those systems then, and they worked on I think they worked on the cathode ray, didn't they, to identify it working a bit like the games used to work. Those games controller you could have. I think it worked out where the cathode ray beam was, and that's how it knew where the pen was. And I also remember seeing the touchscreen ones as well that used I think they used LEDs, didn't they, across the left and the right? An LED on the left and a sensor on the right, and one at the bottom, one at the top, and then you broke the beam. I remember seeing those green screen touch things, thinking they were amazing things.
Yeah, and light pens were I remember having one I lived into one of the Ataris, and you get that working, running on the. I think that was on the parallel bus on the printer port. That was the way we got that working. But yeah, peeking and poking the signals from the light pen. That was good. Those were the days.
And I suppose what we're talking 80. When did the first Fairlight? 82, 83, something like that. So PC were just around with them. So mouse wasn't really a ubiquitous thing that everybody knows how to use now, was it? It was a light pen makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You touch what you want it to do on the screen.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. And also it's contactless as well, actually. So you don't smear your screen. You get there's a lot of advantages actually with light pens, especially in industrial environments. Certainly they were used a lot in factory environments. This is actually another place I came across in the time. But sadly, the technology which has seen its day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll include a link in the show notes, and if anybody wants to play with their very own Fairlight, get that emulator, because it's absolutely brilliant. And I've had some fun with that, and there's some great videos of people doing stuff with it as well. And you can see if you go on YouTube, there's a whole. I got down a real rabbit hole the other night of watching these. Somebody had got some of the Pet Shop Boys Fairlight files that they'd actually made for some live shows that they were going to do in the late 80s that never actually happened. So it's what they would have had on stage at the time. So they probably would have had 2 or 3 Fairlights playing it, and they're demonstrating this. So you can actually see the sample files and everything being played. Absolutely brilliant. So not everybody's cup of tea, but definitely interesting fun. So so that's where I spent a few hours on YouTube, and that algorithm is really good on. It's amazing, isn't it? Those algorithms. Once you get drawn into those and start watching videos, and you can get completely distracted by them.
But you go down that YouTube rabbit hole and you're gone for weeks.
Yeah. So have a look at those. Now, I believe that you've got a new device that you wanted to tell us about this week.
Yeah, I've got a new toy. So if you can tell what it is yet, I'll help people a little bit just by doing that. That tends to sort of make it a bit more obvious what it is. So this
it looked like some kind of camera thing until
well, it is a camera thing.
I suppose it is. Yeah,
basically under this front bit, you've got a 4K camera on a very, very good gimbal. So yeah, it's I think this is a DJI Mavic Mini, or DJI Mini Pro. I think they may have dropped the Mavic name, no, but it's a DJI Mini Pro 3. DJI are obviously known for their drones, but they're also known for their cameras as well. I use a DJI Pocket 2 camera all the time, and their gimbals are just brilliant. And this has I think the same camera as my Pocket 2, and it's certainly as good quality. And this is as you can see, quite a small device. It's almost pocketable, but it's as good as the huge drone I used to fly. And it's got some advantages over the previous version of the Mini, because there's been a Mini 1 and a Mini and a Mini 2 as well. But this is the first one which has got proper object avoidance on it. It's got sensors pointing down. sensors on the back pointing backwards, so you can avoid objects going forward and backwards, and it does. I flew it out myself today, and it took off and went over my head. What it can't do at the moment is send anything sideways, but you have an option to turn off sideways movement, which is quite interesting. So you can just make it all. You have to turn it and fly it. But the other thing is, it's got some really good software with it. The DJI Fly apps is known to be very, very good anyway. But this has basically got most of the AI stuff in it, which the bigger brothers have got. So it's got a follow me mode. It's got all the sort of nice tricks you can do in terms of doing master shots and things. And I was playing with it the other day, and I think I've ended up creating an intro to a new Nordic thriller series. I'm not sure it's played very well over teams, but
wow, that does look like something you would see off some kind of TV show. So this was done with that drone.
Yeah, with this drone, and this is only a 1080p as well. It's not even 4K. So
that shot. Some of these are classic drone shots, aren't they? The pan and rotate one that you were doing there.
Yeah,
and that's really impressive.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, basically, some of that is my flying, but other bits of it is just the AI flying it and actually doing some of the shots. I mean, there's a lot of tricks you can do with drones in terms of how you actually set them up for flight. One of the shots I'm doing in there is basically I'm rotating that way while moving that way. So right. it effectively gives a circle effect as it. So you get So you're getting a nice and long, and then obviously you can do uprights. But the other thing, obviously, because the camera is completely controllable vertically and down, up and down, so you can tilt it in flight. And obviously you can point it straight down if you want to. So you can do those shots where you just go straight up or straight down.
Oh, that's brilliant! Yeah.
And it's also got quite a good zoom on it as well, so you can do quite a lot of that as well. So yeah, so you can see it was quite fun putting that one together. But that was a really easy thing to just shoot. And they basically set a load of shots together and then threw it through their editor to produce that. As I said, very Nordic detective series started, reminded me of The Bridge and a few other things. Very scenic look on it. But yeah, it's really good. Very lightweight. It's quite expensive. It's about £800. I've got the version with the very good controller on that actually. But so you can run it with your phone, obviously, or with sort of like a remote control you click the phone onto. But this is the control I've got, which is actually got the button screen as well, which is slightly more expensive, and that just makes it easier, just because it's all connected. You don't have to think about syncing up the phone to the device and making sure everything's maybe it just works. And the software is up to date as well, and all the firmware is up to date very quickly as well. It picks up GPS signal way quicker than my last drone did, so I can very easily fly it quickly. It's very good at returning home, so it's very safe to fly. And most of the time, you're not going to hit anything because you've got the object avoidance going in. Obviously, if you go sideways, you can trip things. I did actually trim a tree the other day because I was going sideways on a bit too close to it. But it's just really easy to fly as well. It's a very good pro drone because it's got all the features you want as a pro, and you can get some amazing shots. And then something I'm definitely looking forward to running it for some of the events and stuff I go to. But for an amateur and for a beginner, it's really good as well. Obviously, a bit pricey for a beginner, but yeah. I mean, I've always steered away from DJI stuff because it's very, very expensive. But you can see the quality. I mean, it definitely is. 20-minute roughly flight time, so that's quite good enough for most things, and reasonably good gimbal protection. The one thing is, if you did that, is actually quite exposed, that camera, as you can see, and when you're landing. So it's the one thing which is slightly worrying is you could actually clip that as you fly, but if you did, that's basically a game over for the drone. But DJI had this quite good care refresh package where you can pay a little bit of money each year, it's £100 or something like that, and you can get replacements if you have to have a flyaway or damage, get a replacement drone. So it's not but one which doesn't really question why you've had the problem with it, the replacement. Very good, very good. Obviously, and the other great thing about this is it's 249 grams, which means it falls in the sub 250 gram category, which basically means you can fly it virtually anywhere. You've obviously still got the restrictions around airspace and everything like that, and private land where you have to have the landowner's permission. But you can fly it near people, you can fly it near things. You just can't fly it over crowds. Obviously, the weight is the key thing. This drops out of the sky. It's not going to kill you necessarily. It might give you quite a nasty knock, whereas one of the bigger drones would definitely kill people. So that's part of the reason you fly it closer to things, and it means you can use it a lot. But as you say, you can see it's very transportable as well. Carry that around. It sits in the back of my car now. I just grab it out whenever I need to see something decent to shoot. So very impressed with this. It is expensive, but the quality is definitely there. And it's a very good camera actually. I mean, I was actually thinking about you can almost use it like that to film things. It is really good camera.
That's quite good. My Harriet air drone, which is up on my shelf above me up there, the battery packs have stopped charging, so one stopped a while ago, and now the other one has stopped. So I think
that was a great drone for its time. The Fairlight air drone is one of the first ones which really had a lot of features this has actually got.
But the it does miss things like the camera is straightforward facing. So if you want to see something down, you've got to tilt. So obviously you've got to fly forward. And I said, I always dubious about it flying too far away from me, because it did have a tendency sometimes just to lose control. And I see people with these modern ones like that are quite happy to sit in the garden and send them off, right to the other side of the village or whatever, and bring them back because they're confident that they've got that control over it. Where with that, I wouldn't have that confidence to go anywhere outside sort of 100 meters of where I'm stood type thing. But
you've got to be able to see it, right? But that's
yeah. I mean, I've seen someone has one near where I live, because I see every now and then you'll see one just zip past the window. Someone's flying. They've usually fly really high up, so I don't know where they are, but they must be in the local area. But obviously they're flying them really high up. But they are quite fun things, especially with kids. Kids love them.
Yes.
I'm just not sure. I never really got enough usage out of mine, I guess, to warrant like an 800 quid one. That could buy me a nice new synthesizer or something. But
it was a present, so I'm not going to argue.
Absolutely. I mean, they're absolutely. They're really fun to play with, and especially, I mean, I can imagine for you, especially because most of my videos I tend to be in here with the occasional one outside. But if you're doing some, car stuff, then it's great for establishing shots and cutaways and that sort of stuff while you're doing that.
But the other thing is because it's got the active track, the follow me mode. It doesn't just follow the way you're holding the controller, which a lot of the devices it is AI tracking. So you just tap on the screen what you want to track. So I can track cars. So set out on private land obviously, and you take it off so it's facing on the side of the car, and then tell it to track the car, and then drive the car off, and it will follow the car, and you get some really nice shots that way. It's very effective for that that type of establishing shot.
I can imagine it being really good for that. Yeah.
But I'm not sure we're going to get any chance to use it tomorrow. The event I'm going to tomorrow, because I think it's a restricted airspace. So I'm off to the Milbert Proving Ground tomorrow for the Cenix LCV event, which is the low carbon vehicle event. So this is where you get to see all the innards of electric vehicles, and actually hydrogen vehicles and some of the other technologies which are out there. Tends to be not actually. I mean, there are a few car manufacturers there with cars, but it's more tends to be people showing you how the innards of the vehicle. For example, tomorrow the Lotus people are going to be there with the electric innards with Electra, so something like that. And also some of the new technology in terms of charging and instruction and stuff like that. So I will report back on that next week. But I'm hoping to line up a few really interesting interviews while I'm there as well. So hopefully we'll have some content.
Good.
But it's always got great there. I mean, and of course it's got the proving ground there, which is a test track. So you sometimes you get a chance to drive some interesting vehicles around some very interesting bits of road. To try things out. So yeah, I hope I can get a chance to do that as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love those test tracks. I went to the Ford test track in a 4-wheel drive thing. They said you can drive up and then drive down, and it's fine driving up, and then it goes over this brow and it kind of drops away. And I was thinking, there's no way this car's going to go down there, but of course it does, and that's what they do all the time with these things. But yeah, I was thinking this isn't going to happen.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I was just looking through the list of invites I've got tomorrow. There's some interesting people I'm going to be talking to, so it's going to be good. And there's a very interesting vehicle launch happening, which I can't talk about till after it's happened, but we'll be able to talk about next week, and that does look really interesting. So yes, some good stuff.
Oh, very good. You have no events this at the moment, but I have got a nice weekend away in the Cotswolds, so I was driving down in my petrol car.
Yeah.
So
I don't. I've mentioned before we've got another EV in the family now. We've got we've had the second car has been an MG ZS EV for a while, which is was a nice electric car. MG now is owned by the Chinese companies, SAIC, Shanghai Commercial Company, and they actually manufacture most of Volkswagen's technology stuff in China. And you can tell that because a lot of the badge parts in the MG are actually badged with Volkswagen part numbers. But recently they brought out a new version of this ZS EV, which has got a lot longer range. So gone up from about 40 miles to 280 miles. But what was really interesting is when we traded the MG ZS EV in, basically got more money than we paid for it originally. So driving for effectively 2 years without, I mean, some of that obviously was locked out, and that's the second car, so it doesn't get used so much. But yeah, so it ended up with more money back than we actually paid for it originally. So it's almost effectively getting a very heavily subsidised new car.
Yeah. That's amazing, that, isn't it? That's I was talking to someone today who was saying that same thing's happening with still with graphics cards. You know, you could sell them for more than depending on some of the Nvidia ones, you can sell them for more than you were bought them 6 months ago because they're still struggling with shortage of chips.
Yeah, and that's the case with cars. I mean, particularly cars. I mean, people, the average waiting time I think is around about a year now for a new car, and some people just aren't prepared to wait that long, so they can get a nearly new or low mileage second-hand car. They'll go for that, but that's pushed the second-hand market prices up to ridiculous levels. Yes, and to the point where second-hand cars are sometimes more expensive than new cars.
Yeah, because if you've got to wait, a year's a long time to wait, isn't it? You know, if you plan it out, then fair enough. But you know, quite often once you make that decision, you want it there now. I mean, I've got new cars, and waiting a few months is fine. I think the last one I probably waited 4 months, something like that, fine. But a year is a long time, and you could get buyer's remorse within that year's time as well. And I guess that's a bit of an issue.
It is, and I mean, some of the wait times that's the average. So sometimes wait times are way longer than that. We're hearing some sort of 18 months, 2 year wait times on some models, which is fairly ridiculous. But and also what's happening now, of course, is because of these incredible wait times, even the company car buyers are now having to look for second-hand vehicles, which again is pushing the good quality second-hand market up ridiculously. I mean, it will change. I think supply is starting to be sorted out. It takes a while to bring new suppliers online to fix some of the issues and some of the components. That's starting to happen. I think supplies will stabilise around about 24. New products coming out then, but it's a while. It's going to be a while before we get to that state. And in the meantime, it's if you've got a car. If you've been waiting a year for a new car to come in, it comes in, you're going to probably do quite a good deal on your old car.
Yeah. The problem is you've got if you could sell your current one, if you haven't ordered one, it's no good, is it? Because although you can get yours at a higher price, you won't be able to get a new one for whatever time.
Right.
So yeah, so it only really helps the people that ordered last year. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that. I noticed that there's still all the lots of talk over energy caps and things like that, isn't there, for in the news at the moment? And I think that's still an ongoing thing, isn't it? That I guess could make a big impact on the cost of charging your vehicle, especially with if there's going to be these capped rises, capped by the government for 2 years and that kind of thing. That could actually make a big difference in if you charge at home, I suppose. But it's going to make a big difference, isn't it, in what you pay in that? And I suppose some of these high increased energy costs they do get passed on, don't they, to the end user, even up to third party places. So if you've got all these different charging stations, they're all going to be charging more now for the electricity.
Yeah, indeed, and that's the challenge.
Yeah, but I suppose if there is a price cap, then charging at home would be the cheapest. I suppose it's the cheapest by a long way anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they have to talk about business support as well, which would hopefully help with the charging. There's a big campaign going on at the moment. I think it's called Fair Charges is the group, and they're campaigning to actually put the VAT level on public charging to the same as home charging, because at the moment there's a difference.
Right.
If you charge at home, you get charged as domestic supply. If you go charge them on the charges on the road, you get your miles charged at commercial supply rates, which is 20% VAT rather than 5% VAT. So, which does make quite a chunk of difference, and does seem unfair for those people who don't have home chargers. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I've seen some of the rates that businesses have been sold on the wholesale market, and you're talking 59p a kilowatt hour, and as the base rate they're getting charged, which is actually impossible for these companies to work with, because once you start putting in the cost of the charges, the infrastructure and everything they need to make a reasonably large profit on every charge anyway to stay in business. Which means you'd be talking unrealistic prices for charging. People just will not pay them. So it's a very it's a tricky situation. But yeah, it's interesting to see where we can go on this. But certainly keen to see what they can do. It's something I want to see better. And that Fair Charge campaign is spearheaded by a former petrol head. Well, actually, probably still a petrol head in some ways, but Quentin Wilson. So he's got very much into EVs these days, and he's running this Fair Charge charter, which is quite interesting. Very good. Actually, we'll try and get him to come on the show at some point. We've been trying to line up an interview with him for a while, but he's a very busy man.
Yeah, I can imagine. He was always the. I used to like his Top Gear back in the old Top Gear. He usually had one foot on the bumper.
Yeah.
And he's presenting. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. He was always the car salesman. He was the car sales guy, wasn't he? How to get the best deals on your car.
Yeah. She still does to some extent.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. Well, it sounds like it'll be a good event. That I think. It's just great to be able to have some of these events again, and to go to shows and concerts and everything. It finally feels like we can be with people again, and it's nice, isn't it, to go to these things again. Garden shows and all these things. Whatever you like doing, it's great to be able to get around and do them all. And I've as I've been going around, I've been catching a lot of audio. So I think that's my next project. I've got loads of audio from of water at the moment. So I like streams and rivers and things like that. So I don't know quite what I'm going to do with those. So just usually play them and put my headphones on and see what comes. Or I might chop them up and put them on in the Fairlight. Although you can only get a couple of seconds sample time in the Fairlight. So
yeah, that might work.
yeah, it might be. There is actually. What I did discover is I think I mentioned this, but there's a whole load of available online of all the Fairlight samples in wave format, where you can get the orchestral strike and the bottle blow and all the things like that in wave samples, and so you can get hold of those. You can download them and then put them in your favorite sampler or in your audio system or whatever you want. So I've got some of those on my Nord. So I downloaded some of the orchestral strike. Vroom. I love those kind of sounds. So I've got some of those on there as well. So so that's my plans. So I'm off to the Cotswolds weekend. So we're taking my to get some more audio effects and see what I can do with that. I like
water to scan there.
Yeah, especially probably looking at the forecast for next weekend as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'll go and get my music stuff set out. So where can we find you for your all your stuff and your new drone footage?
Well, find me on Twitter at Gary Dover. I haven't actually put any of the drone footage up yet, but I will publish some to my YouTube channel, but I can work out how to get it to the right size to go on my YouTube channel. Yeah,
that's the thing. You can get. I mean, I did some with when I was on holiday. I did some 4K, and it's actually it's the big files, and then you've got to get them into your editor, and then you've got to start. Your editor's struggling with these giant files as well. So it's great to have the high content, but I ended up dropping mine down to 1080p because I thought I'm only uploading them to YouTube anyway. So it seemed 4K is great, but for a music video, do I need the 4K? No,
well,
probably not.
I decided to record at top quality, which is quite high frame rate as well, which obviously makes it even bigger file. And that stuff. And my laptop was definitely straining under the Zoom seams. But I have got a couple of bits of 1080p video as well. So those I probably can upload. I'll see what I can do.
Excellent stuff. Well, I'm going to play it with another music track. I'm not sure what that will be, but I'll play it in. When I do the edit, I'll include it. So you can find me on Twitter at @ISDixon. Anybody who's interested in the Uno drum control software, then let me know, and I can put a link for that in the show notes as well. I'll probably finish it next week or so. So we're back same time, same place next week, and we'll see you then.
Take care.